Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Wanderers of East, East 3 for the Turbografx CD, brought to us by Falcom. Wanderers of East, the third game in the East series, takes a large departure in gameplay from the first two games. While the original games had a top-down perspective similar to the original Legend of Zelda, East 3 went along the ways of creating a side-scrolling style game in the way that Legend of Zelda 2 was made. And similarly to Zelda 2, East 3 is also considered the black sheep of the series. So here we go with Wanderers of East for the Turbografx CD.
Think back to your worst nightmare. The feeling of dark isolation and helplessness. The feeling that an evil force controlled your destiny. Perhaps we can compare these emotions with the terror that enclosed the people of Kenai. Their peace had been shattered by the domination of an evil demon named Demonicus. His long arms of decimation swept over the lands and burned all life in an inferno of slaughter and destruction. Yet even the worst nightmares offer some hope for survival. Kenai's fortunes lay in this stunning warrior of indomitable strength. His bravery was renowned throughout the land, as he had once saved an entire world from similar destruction. But now his challenge was greater than ever before. The insurmountable ferocity of Demonicus was frightening even to our courageous hero. But a real man never shows his fear. And Adol was, in fact, a most gallant soul. He battled Demonicus with equal intensity in this horrific struggle to the death. The skies had darkened, and the earth shook as Demonicus applied his brutal force and displayed his savage rage. There were to be no prisoners in this holy war of good over evil. Demonicus unleashed his awesome size and strength against our hero, but Adol's cunning wit allowed him to avoid and eclipse all of the alien's fatal blows. There was more than just a miracle behind this savior of tormented lands. Who could fight such courageous battles and manage to pull victory from such impossible odds? Who was this strange raider of evil foes? His legend and the legend of this land are about to be retold. The adventure is in the spirit of the warrior, and the warrior is you. Go now, Adol, and seek out these dark forces that oppress and terrorize the innocent lives of Kenai.
After our introductory movie, we now come to the main start screen of the game, where you can start a new game or continue an old save game. We also, though, have a little bit more story that we'll scroll through before we actually start the game. Now it's time for us to begin our journey into Wanderers of East.
Adol! Smell that fresh sea breeze? The ship is in top shape. We're ready to shove off.
And after that last intro, we now actually have our main screen of the game. We can see below our main screen that we actually have our health bar, as well as the enemy health bar, and then you actually have a number counter for your health, experience, ring, and gold meter next to that. The main hero of the E-Series, Adol, has traveled with his friend Dogi to Dogi's hometown of Serena, and it doesn't take too long for Adol to get caught up in a whole new adventure here. The hometown of Serena is actually called Redmont in other versions of the game, so I'm gonna apologize ahead of time if I accidentally mix up some of the names, as I'm used to calling them based on the Super Nintendo version of the game. While Dogi and Adol end up traveling to the inn located in the town, Dogi runs into an old friend.
What do you think? Do you like my town?
Oh, excuse me.
Hey, why don't you look where you're going?
Say, aren't you Dogi?
Elena? I barely recognized you.
Dogi, you haven't changed a bit.
Very funny, Elena. Tell me, how's your brother, Chester?
I haven't seen him in the last few months. I'm sorry, but I'm in a hurry.
After so many years, we finally meet again, and now you've got to run? Adol, I'm going ahead to the inn. See you later.
After going back inside the inn and talking to Dogi one more time, we now actually have freedom in the game to begin our journey. Start off, travel with Adol throughout the town, and you can actually talk to a few of the villagers if you want a little bit more conversation, but our first real stop is going to be in the shop in the far right building. In here we can buy swords and armor. We're gonna buy one of everything that we can currently buy here. The short sword, the leather armor, and we'll also be buying our shield. With that, you actually have 100 gold left. If you want to, you can walk over to the shop next to this one and purchase an herb if you want to. The herb will completely replenish your health, and we'll be using quite a few of them throughout the game. As we travel to the right of town, we find out that monsters have infested Tigray Quarry.
Monsters! They came out of nowhere! Mayor Grady is still trapped in the mine! Someone must rescue him! Who are you? Really? A miner called Harvey already went to look for Grady, but we haven't heard from him since he entered the mine.
We find out that the mayor is still trapped inside the mine, and that we're going to be sent off in order to try to save him. You heard probably a little jingle that played right after our conversation ended. That signified that a new area on the main map has opened up. On our main map, you can actually move Adol around the map and select where you would like to go. Right now, of course, we only have 2 places open up to us, the main town of Serena, as well as Tigray Quarry. Now begins the actual battle and combat of the game. The first few enemies, of course, are going to be pretty easy to deal with, and I highly recommend staying here for a little while and train a little bit against these enemies. At any point, if you're wondering how much more experience you're going to need in order to level up, you can check that in the status screen. The best way, though, to fight these enemies is going to be working your way over to the right, battling everything you see, and then when you backtrack over to the left, the enemies will respawn. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll actually get a couple respawns at a time, allowing for like 3 or 4 monsters to be piled up on one another, and allowing you to get a lot of experience quickly. Like I was able to right there with that whole string of bugs that came flying at me. For the most part, though, throughout the game, I won't have to train a whole lot or grind. That's one of the good things, though, about this game. And even with the minimal amount of grinding that I'll have to do, I'll still be able to max my level out by the end of the game. Overall, though, combat is very simplistic in the game. All you need to do is swing your sword at enemies, and for most of the enemies, it's just staying there and taking them out. However, for some of the harder ones, you may have to learn a pattern or two in order to be able to avoid taking a lot of damage, and some later enemies can deal a lot of damage to you in a very short amount of time. Now that we've reached our next level, it's time to actually continue on in the quarry. In the second area, this long mineshaft type place, we have some new enemies. The main new ones are the ogre type enemies that move back and forth and swing their club at you. They can give off a pretty decent amount of experience, and if you walk your way back and forth between the staircases and them, you'll get them to respawn and you can get a little bit of experience if you would like to. Once you're happy with that, go all the way to the bottom and walk to the left in order to grab the power ring. As you've noticed at the bottom, our power ring meter has started to slowly go up every time we've defeated enemies. You need to have ring power in order to actually use any of the rings that you'll gather throughout the game. The power ring, however, will probably be the most used throughout the playthrough, as it gives you a boost in strength that will greatly help you take out bosses. With the power ring, we now start heading off to the right side of the quarry. The next screen is just full of the same bugs we saw on the first screen, so nothing really new that we have to contend with. For the most part in the game, just keeping your weapon active by just holding down the button or keep mashing it in order to keep swinging is one of your best bets and best defenses in order to take out enemies.